lifelong interest in healing, Dr. Linda Salvin pursued an advanced degree in epidemiology. Then, after dramatic near-death experiences, Dr. Linda saw the other side and returned with gifts of insight, visions, and revealed wisdom. Now those gifts are ongoing, and she's here to share them with you. Get ready to be amazed. It's time for Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions Podcast with America's original radio psychic, Dr. Linda Salvin, offering up her always fascinating blend of psychic psychology, clairvoyant insights, and expert guests and alternative healing methods. So pull up a chair and get ready for a visit with the one and only Dr. Linda. And now, live from Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Linda Salvin.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's another Psychic Solutions podcast with me, Dr. Linda Salvin. I'm your metaphysician and been doing this show for 30 years. We're having, again, Mercury retrograde glitches. I have a guest by the name of Pegi Robinson who is going to be calling in about her near-death experiences and her channel on near-death, but for some reason she's unable to connect to the station. So hopefully she'll at least call in and we can interview her that way.
She is on the line.
She's on the line. Okay, so glitches happen. It's Mercury retrograde. I cannot tell you the attacks, the spiritual problems, the legal issues, things flying in the air, people not being able to sign on like we had the other day with Katie, who's coming back on the 14th of May. And not everybody can understand technology. It took me a while to figure it out. And we're not techie. Not everybody's techie. However, you're going to love talking to Pegi, and I'll bring her back on in the future when she can be seen on the screen here. But you'll hear her story. I have been on her show twice. She's going to tell you how to find her channel on YouTube. And she has had near-death experiences. She's extremely spiritual. Let's bring her on, Pegi Robinson from Ohio. Hi, Pegi. How are you?
Hi, Linda.
Hi, sorry about the glitches. I'll explain it to you off the air and we'll get you back on next month where we can talk further. But why don't you introduce yourself as far as the near-death experiences you had as a child and how you evolved with God and spirituality. And, we'll go for a little while and then we'll bring you back when you're visual as well, okay?
Okay.
So please
start. You want me to talk about my near-death experience?
Please, yes.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
We're fine on the audio. Yeah, we just can't see you. That's all. It's
okay,
easy.
Good. Right.
When you see how easy it is, you'll understand.
Okay. So I drowned when I was 5 years old in a pond, and I was choking and drowning, and it was horrible. And for a moment, I was suddenly at the ceiling in the kitchen, watching my mom and my sister get stuff to bring down to the pond. And I didn't hear anything earthly. I just felt their emotions, like I was inside both of them, feeling how relaxed and calm their concentration of thinking about what to bring down. And then I was right back in the pond choking, and that continued. And then I felt like my throat would burst. I couldn't take it anymore. And then all of a sudden, it's like when you wake up from a nap, a little bit of time has went by, and you wake up and you're all relaxed and calm, and I can breathe just fine. And
were you groggy at all? Did you feel?
No. Nope. I was under the water and felt just like when you wake up from a nap, that wonderful, refreshed feeling. And the muddy water that I was drowning in, it was now a bright, transparent green.
Wow.
And I thought at 5 years old
that the green represents healing, that you'd be safe because it's all the metaphysical messages. Go ahead.
And so my thought at 5 years old at that moment was, my parents lied to me. There's no such thing as drowning. Why did they tell us, be careful, you're drowned? Like, I was scared for nothing because that's what I thought. I didn't realize I was dead. I thought my parents lied. I couldn't wait to tell my siblings, hey, they lied to us, you're fine under there. And then I floated down deeper and the fish were bumping into me. And I thought, this is odd.
Did they nip you? Did they bite you? Or you could just feel them swimming around you?
Yeah, they were swimming like I was just like driftwood under the water, like I was no concern to them, which was weird because us kids would, when Dad was fishing, sometimes we'd jump in and try to catch the fish with our bare hands. You know, they'd get away from us, but they're just acting like I'm not even there. And then I realized through this vision appeared of me remembering looking at the fishbowl tank at our house. And I stuck my hand in there one day and I thought, well, how come they're afraid of my hand? They're not afraid of that treasure chest Mom just put in there that day. And then suddenly, while I'm under the water now, I'm having that visual of that memory, just like as if I'm reliving it. But it explained to me, that vision did, like, oh, I get it. The fish know something I don't. They know the difference between something alive and dead. I'm a dead girl at the bottom of this pond. That's why they're not afraid of me. And then I thought, don't ask me how
You went through all this at the age of 5?
Pardon me?
You went through all of this analytical stuff at the age of 5?
Yes.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. Go on.
And so I thought, you know, I don't want to be a dead girl on this pond. And then I had another visual. I was seeing something I thought would happen in the future. I thought I would see my parents, not that I would see, but I could see the future of what I thought would happen. Like my family in our white station wagon of 4 kids now. Well, I was 5, but the 4 kids going down the road and turning towards town. And they would always say when they're going in and out of that road to our house that there's where Peg is, you know, like I was no longer in a car with them, like I'm at the bottom of this pond. But I thought they would never find me. That was my logic at 5. I thought they'll never find me. And then
Peggy,
I thought, I don't want to be a dead girl.
Peggy, excuse me. I know you've got a lot to say, but I have to ask questions to do an interview. Okay. So how long were you in that pond, do you think? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, go on.
My mom and my sister hadn't come down yet.
Wow. Go on.
So I thought, I don't want to be a dead girl on this pond. And with that thought, it was like that was my mode of transportation, was my thought. Because now I'm at the top of the water, and I can see below the water and above the water at the same time. And I thought, wow, my vision's different. And I knew somehow I had a choice. I could stay below or I could go above. And I thought, well, I'm bored with below. I've seen all the fish I cared to. That was fun, but I'm done.
Yeah.
And I think I'll go above. So I went up and I'm floating up. There's no body, just me. And I get about high as the treetops, and I think, which is surround the back end of the pond. And I think, well, that's high enough for now. And then I thought, well, that's silly that I would be afraid of heights because I'm dead. But I thought, well, I'm getting used to it. I remember every single thought I had.
Of course, but do you think that was your soul leaving your body and you had an out-of-body experience along with the near death? So the soul elevated and you were able to see below the water and above the water. It's kind of like me in the plane crash when I was 50 feet out of my body on the left and 5 feet 8 on the right. When you split and the soul does its weird things, that's what you had. It was your soul elevating above and taking care of you, right?
Yeah, all I knew is I was a ghost. And I thought, I'm a ghost. And the only thing I knew about ghosts was Casper the Friendly Ghost. That's all I knew.
That's funny.
And so I was hovering above the pond. I never left directly center above where I believe my body was. Like I went straight up. I could not see my body down in the water, but like I knew, like I went straight up and I stopped here. And then I looked around and I thought, well, since I can hover, I guess I can fly. And so I looked around, which way should I go? Right towards Belpre or left towards Marietta? Which way should I go? And then I heard a female voice a certain distance away, like maybe 8 feet, 10 feet. I could tell where she was, but I could not see her. And I heard her say, no, don't go yet. If they find you soon, you might go back.
Wow.
And I'll never forget
an angel. You had an angel, a spirit visitation. Yeah. Go on.
And so I remember again my thought, I thought, go back. That's not how death works. You don't go back. Like I knew that much about death. And I thought, well, I couldn't see her. I didn't know who she was. And I thought, I don't think I have to listen to adults now. So I'll be good for a little while, but then I'm going to go because I could see the advantage to this. I didn't have to eat my dinner. I didn't have to go in at bedtime.
You're so
I didn't have to do
funny.
anything that felt
That's funny.
funny.
That's really funny, Peggy. Go on. That's funny. That's
So
funny.
I went towards Belpre, and I have never seen this house in that area. I can't tell you if it was a real house or not, if I imagined it but it's the same memory every time. So I go right towards Belpre, and I'm walking along a wood line or moving along a wood line. And like I'm coming to the back of this house, it's 2-story old white house. And there's a door on the edge of it, not like most doors, like center in the middle. There's the edge. It goes into the kitchen. And I went through the door without opening the door. I went through the door. And there's old people sitting around a table talking. There's like maybe 5, 6 people. And there's a guy at the end of the table, like the head of the table. And they all turn and look at me. And I look at that guy at the head of the table. And I'm shy because this was 1966, and when I was 5 years old. And so back then, you did not interrupt adults when they're speaking. So I was kind of shy and just, coming through this kitchen door of this house. And I hung my head kind of in shame. And I said, I'm looking for kids to play with. Because my logic was, I'm going to look, when I thought go left or right, I thought, I'm going to find kids to play with. I thought, most of the old people here are dying, but I'm dead. There's got to be other kids that died. Like, where are they at? And so I said, I'm looking for kids to play with. And the other people all stayed quiet. But that man at the end of the table, he looked at me and just very matter of fact, very serious, said, check the graveyards. And so I left and I went to go to Marietta, and I'll have to go back to the graveyard. I never would have thought of that. Like dead people hanging out at graveyards?
Well, it's interesting.
Why would they do that?
Hold on. What's interesting is that a human being was able to see the ghost or the spirit of you in your spiritual state.
No, they were ghosts. They were ghosts.
Yeah,
I knew that.
I understand that, but they were able to communicate with you. I mean, all this in how many minutes?
I don't know.
That's
if
amazing.
I had to guess, I would say 20 by the time I was back awake.
Okay, let's jump to when you came back into reality and your mom finds you, or who got you out of the pond. Let's get out of the ghost part and get into when you came back to life in your body, even though you were transformed. Okay. You were transformed spiritually.
Okay. So I was doing other things, going down the highway and going through in and out of houses, playing with kids in the yard. It couldn't see me. Trying to talk to kids along the highway, it couldn't see me. And I was told, as I hovered above the pond, again, I was shown my family didn't love me. And then a voice very clearly, not the angel voice, but a voice very clearly inside of me, but not me, told me, children are sent here to be loved. That is why God sends them here. And I'm like, wait a minute, you just showed me my family don't love me, and then you say that? Well, that's not fair. And this real strong feeling of injustice happened. So then next thing I know, also too, I was hovering over the pond, and I see my mom and sisters now sitting on the bed sheet. They have at some point come down, left the kitchen and come down. They're sitting on the bed sheet talking, their feet are facing the pond, but they're looking at each other talking. And my brother's on the board, which caused me to drown. I was floating on it. He took it and I couldn't swim. He's doing laps on that board. And so I'm above looking down at them. Well, so then next thing I know, through all of this, I didn't see the rescue. I'm hanging, dangling over my brother's right shoulder, and he's walking up to the house, carrying me. And my mom and sister is to his right because I'm dangling, and I can see them. I see the gray pavement of the road. I'm throwing up this water down his bare back, and I see them walking up ahead. They're almost to the train tracks above the hill that goes up to our house on the right. And John said, my brother John is carrying me. He says, Mom, can I put her down now?
Oh, my gosh, Peggy.
Wow. Yeah, he was carrying my dead body to the house.
Were you not, you were breathing or you weren't breathing? Did they have to resuscitate you? What happened?
He was carrying my dead body to the house, and I woke up hanging over his shoulder, that water coming out. And I've looked up on the internet, is that how, and I've never heard of a CPR, like that. And it says, no, don't do that. Don't hang people upside down, when they drown. And I'm like, well, apparently it worked for me though, because I was hanging over his shoulder and he's walking, carrying me. And I cannot tell you why, but I come back. And when I come back, I see the pavement. I'm looking at his back. And then I see my mom and sister walking up ahead, almost to the train tracks. And he says, Mom, can I put her down now? And I see them still as I'm dangling upside down. They both turn to the left at the same time. My mom grabs her chest, nods her head, yes, like that, and nods her head, yes, like you can put her down. And my sister and my mom didn't skip a beat walking, turned right back around towards the house and kept walking. And I could still feel their emotions. It was like my mom was like a kid, like she was best sister. My mom's afraid to get in trouble, like a kid afraid to get in trouble. You're afraid of me getting in trouble because I drowned. And I felt that, and they went on up. And then my brother set me down on my feet on the road and took off right up to the house right behind him. And so now I'm standing there on the road like a drowned rat, sick as a dog, with this belly full of pond water, with the knowledge my family doesn't love me.
Oh my God, go on. Ugh. Yeah.
So I think, why would I go to that house to a family who don't love me? Because I was flying, having fun and stuff. Like, I know drowning really, really hurts, but I'm not going to fight this time. I didn't know the word suicide, but I felt it was my right. Like, it was my life, my right. And I thought, I'm going to go back to that pond. I want to go back doing what I was doing. And I took a few steps, and the voice, the angel I heard before, I now see her. And she's hovering over the road, and she's the shape of a young, thin woman with a flowing white gown, which you just like transparent. And she says, no, don't. I said, why? They don't love me. And she says, well, you'll have it all on Sunday. And I said, where will I find it? And she pointed right towards Belpre. She left her arm and pointed her finger towards Belpre, and she was gone. And
yeah, that's called an earth angel.
I said,
whoa, Peggy, that's called an earth angel. I've experienced it twice in my lifetime where they pop up. And when I had the near-death experience with the White Light Tunnel, I was told I could come with this. They said you can come with us now or stay and do. And I was given a message. They pushed me back. Same thing with you, because you were supposed to be here in the physical form to live your life and not die, even at age 5, having a near-death experience like that, because it evolved into your career and your spirituality and the way that you help people. And let's get going, because we don't have all day here. We've got like 20 more minutes. So what happened once you caught your consciousness and your family, because you learned that they do love you? You may not be connected to them spiritually. And a lot of us on a higher level aren't always connected to our family, the physical family, which is why your spiritual family fulfills you where your birth family does not. So go forward as to what happened. How did you get the water out of your gut? How did you start to come back around?
Well,
what did your brothers say?
First of all, I'd like to say my mom died a year ago, and I can tell you, clear up to her death, her and my siblings and my father hated my guts. I know that's hard for people to believe. They don't experience families like that, but that was
I do. I hear it all the time in my practice. You're not alone. It's not an isolated situation, but I understand the pain and the rejection and not feeling loved. I get it. So that anger and that resentment and that bitterness is real. But for whatever reason, you were brought back. Otherwise, you would have died in the pond. You were meant to be here to help others, to help others.
Right. So I went on up the road to the house, and I thought, well, I've got to be my own mother now. I got to mother myself. I can't depend on anyone. So I went to the house. I didn't see anybody. I don't know where they were. And it was just a little house. Like, I don't know, how do I miss them? But I went straight to bed, got my bikini off, my nightgown on, crawled in bed, and I picked up a nursery rhyme book, and I flipped over, and I see a woman that lived in a shoe. I thought, maybe that will be me someday. Maybe I'll have a lot of kids. Maybe I'll love unloved kids like me, and not until decades later, I look back over my life. Oh my God, I had 60 foster kids, adopted 10. And, what's this plan? It really blew my mind.
But you weren't in a shoe. I think it's wonderful. Look what you've done for humanity and taking care of all these children and giving them the love tenfold for what you didn't have. It's all your karma. It's all your past life agreement. It's all what you're supposed to do. So let's talk about the kids as you aged and you matured and you got out. talk about the children. Did you and your husband, you would adopt or you would foster? What happened here?
We had 60 foster kids in 16 years, and we ended up adopting a sibling group of 5. And then a year later, a sibling group of 4 girls that we've been fostering for a year came available for adoption. We didn't mean to adopt 9, but it made 10 kids because I adopted my disabled sister's boy when my boys were little. So we'd already had him, and then these 9, so that made 10 adopted.
Wow. Wow, what a full house. Now let's backtrack a minute. So from growing up at age 5, when you were in 1966, I was 12, so I'm 7 years ahead of you. And you start growing up, you go to high school, you go to school, you go to junior high, you go to high school, you go to college, or whatever you did. What happened in between the pond and starting to get it together to where you got married and took in all these children? What was life like briefly, like going through the developmental stage? What happened? Were you becoming more psychic, more spiritual? Were you looking for children? What were you processing during that era?
Just a lot. I was abused a lot, neglected and things. And I had some spiritual experiences right after the drowning. But when I was 16, I was kidnapped and raped. And as the guy was approaching me, I knew I was about to be raped. I started praying to God, I wish I wasn't on this earth. And suddenly, of course, I couldn't tell anybody this back then. How could you?
No.
Suddenly, I was in the night sky, looking down at earth. I had my clothes, I had my body, my hair was blown in the wind. And I thought, do I have a gift? Did God answer my prayer? How does this work? I could not tell anyone for decades. I couldn't even tell the police later.
No, I was the same way. You can't talk about this stuff. People think you're crazy. No, people think you're nuts when you talk about out-of-body experiences. You were absolutely correct that nobody would believe you, understand you, comprehend. And again, this is all before the internet where everybody talks about it now. But no, go on. This is amazing. Go on. It's fascinating.
And then when I was 25, I had my 2 boys, and then the nephew I adopted was married. And then I became pregnant for twins. I had ectopic pregnancy and died of internal bleeding.
Wow.
At 25 years old. But that was the whole tunnel, the bright white light, the heaven, Jesus, everything experience. Totally different than a drowning.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's like me going through the plane crash versus hit by the fire truck versus totaling a car having the white light. Each incident takes us, you and me and the others who have multiple NDEs, into a different level, a different frequency, and a different experience. They do not repeat the same experience, the light or the out of body or the hovering or the wisdom that you gain or the purpose you learn. So to prevent the pain from the rape, were you actually raped? Did he actually rape you, or were you able to escape that attack?
I escaped mentally. I was not there for it mentally. I come back when it was over.
All right, that's why you had the out-of-body experience, but physically you were hurt. Okay, what happened after that? That took a long time to heal, I'm sure. And the fact that you were raped at 16 and still went on to bear children and adopt children and foster kids. I mean, you're amazing, Peggy. You're always rewarded spiritually. Go on.
So after the second NDE, with the ectopic pregnancy, I started saving lives. I did not, or my husband, we did not know what was happening to me. Never heard of NDE or after effects, any of that. It was about a month. It was 2 months after the NDE. We were at a family reunion, and a big family reunion, and of my husband's side. And I asked people in line to eat. I was like, "Do you hear baby crying?" No. I kept asking everybody. He's like, and I had to follow where I was led. And I was standing out in the middle of this field, like, I know I heard a baby crying. Then all of a sudden, something told me, go look at that grass, that tall grass. Like, oh my gosh, there's nothing in that tall grass. But I walked over there, and here was a little toddler face down in a deep ditch, drowning face down in this ditch.
Oh,
and I reached down by his shirt and picked him up. And he looked at me like he'd seen a ghost, like water was just flooding down his face as he looked at me. He ran to his parents at the end of the pavilion, who must have just started coming looking for him, because he's standing there and he's pointing right at me, and they're shaking their head like confused, like they didn't see me. And I'm thinking, I'm right here. What's the problem? But when I did that, I miscarried. I had been pregnant again right after the tubal, and I felt that I miscarried. So, but that was in 1986, right after the tubal pregnancy. Well, in 2010, I was a drug counselor, and this great big guy, and I recognized his last name. And I said, "Did you go to this family reunion?" And the first time I ever told that story to anybody, I said, "This happened with this little boy." That big guy leaned clear back in his chair and looked at me. He says, "That was you? That was my brother. He swears to this day."
Oh my God, I'm getting chills. Oh my God, it all comes full circle. Gosh, I can't wait till your book comes out. Go on.
So I thought, no, it was just me. I just heard it. Nobody else. I think I have good hearing, And but the thing is a week before my NDE, there was an incident here on our property where my little boy almost drowned. My oldest son yelled, "Mom, Jeremy!" And I was frozen in fear, and I started praying, "God, please don't take him." My husband went looking for the kids. I couldn't move. I was so scared. All of a sudden, I'm like hovering over the field, and this knowing comes. Even though the property we had just bought, I'd never seen the water up, but something said we've had a lot of melting snow and rain, and the creek's up, but it's not too deep. If he would stand up, he'd be okay. Immediately, like instinctively, I just started praying instead of God to Jeremy. I said, "Jeremy, stand up. It's not that deep. Come down, walk out of there." And then next thing I know, Jeremy comes walking up out of there. He looks at his mom. She's worried about me. Well, I found out, I never told that story. And why you bring these stories at these moments is crazy. So Jeremy was 20 years old. So it was 15 years later. He's having a New Year's Eve party. His girlfriend's there. And I'm telling his cousin, his friends, and I don't know what brought it up. And of course, and then Jeremy walks over out of the kitchen. He says, "Mom, I heard you praying." I'm like, "You could hear a pin drop in the room." Everybody's mouth went open. Like, "What?" He says, "That's what it was." He says, "I was trying to swim. I was panicking. I heard you say, 'Jeremy, calm down. Stand up. It's not that deep. Walk out of there.'" And so that's why he come out. I said, "Oh my God." And I just found out a few weeks ago, he told me, he says, "Mom," I said, "Jeremy, can we talk about that? Like, we really don't talk about it." He said, "Mom, it was like I was a drone. I was hovering. I seen you stand there praying." I said, "Jeremy, that's a near-death experience." He said, "Well, I don't know about that." He didn't want to talk about
He's
it.
learning,
He's
but
not there yet.
He has to learn, just like you had to learn. I had to learn. Not everybody who goes through it says,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's what that is." It's scary. It's unusual when you're out of your body, or you're hovering, or you're confronting a death, and here you are, and someone's helping you. Whether it's the earth angel or the spiritual side of angels helping us, we have a lot of activity that people cannot see, understand, comprehend, or absorb until it actually happens to you. So it's people like you on your channel, or people like me that for 30 years I've been talking about this, and all the other people out there now who are really on the near-death experience bandwagon. It's all coming forward, whereas before it was so taboo. Don't talk, don't do this, don't do that, because they thought you were crazy. You're not crazy. There's a real spirituality to the physical plane that most people do not comprehend. Go on. This just gets better because you were given your gift at 5 to be a sight and see and an emotional healer to help people. But before we go on, tell people the name of your channel so that people can find you on YouTube, and then we'll go back.
Okay, NDE TV, like Near Death Experience Television. So it's NDE TV and Pegi Robinson, PEGI. And it's on YouTube.
Perfect. We'll go back to that in a bit. Go on. Let's hear what happens next. This is like, it's like the next chapter. What is it? Go on.
So I go back to right after I lost the twins, the second NDE at 25, and the boy in the creek. Well, then right after that, my 3 boys sit in the back seat. My husband's driving. We're coming through a town called Galpolis, about 45 minutes from our house. And this area we usually don't go in, and we're just on a drive. And all of a sudden, I told my husband, it's never happened before since. I was like, "Pull over right now." He's like, "Okay." He pulls over. And I jumped out of that car, and I ran. I knocked on the door. I thought, I don't know who lives here. And when they answered the door, I said, "I'm sorry, I have the wrong house." But something's like, "Go to that house right now." And I went and knocked on the door, and the person answered. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was my ex-sister-in-law. I was like, "What are you doing here?" She said, "I'm babysitting her sister. This is her house." And she said, I said, "What are you doing?" She says, "I'm babysitting my sister's son, her nephew." I said, "Where is he?" She says, "He's playing in the bedroom." I said, "Take me to him right now." And I ran. And he's in that bedroom choking on Easter basket grass. And I grabbed him up, run him to the bathroom, turned on the water, got my fingers wet, and just turned him upside down, kept pulling that grass out. And she says this day, if you hadn't been there, she says, I wouldn't know what to. She got the phone book out and was looking for a phone number for her sister to say she can't handle him when she saw me doing that. She thought this is too much for me. But she wouldn't know what to do. She's kind of mentally disabled. And
you were sent one more time as the Earth Angel, Peggy. You need to accept your role one more time. You're the Earth Angel. Go on. You're guided to save these kids. You're guided to help these children.
So I went back and got in the car, and I told my husband what happened. I'm kind of in shock myself. And he looks at me, and I'm quiet all the way home. And he keeps looking at me. And I just kind of shrug my shoulders like, I don't know, I don't understand. Because he knew what happened with the boy. But, that wasn't like, oh, that's a big deal. It's just like, oh, she saved this little boy. But now this little boy. So then it wasn't long after that, we put the boys down for a nap in the afternoon, which we usually did. Usually we always had the radio on. We got still on the deck, listening to music. And suntan a little bit while they get in that. I said, you know what? Today I don't want the music on. And it was out of character. So we just sat down, and I heard the slightest scuff noise that nobody would hear or pay attention to. But somehow this noise is like, go now, check it out now. And I told my husband, I got to go check out. I said, I didn't hear nothing. And he just saw me taking off running. And I think he knew by now what's going on there now. These things are happening.
Yeah, what was the next behind me? What was your next destination? What was this one?
Ran up top of our hill. We live on 248 Long Bottom. We ran top of the hill, and we didn't see anything. I don't know where I'm going or why I'm going, but I'm going. I ran up top that hill, and we didn't see a thing. But all of a sudden, I see like a shadow along the left of the road, on our side of the road, at the top of the hill. And here, what the shadow was a car had went off the left center and hit a tree head on. And there's two guys in the front laying their heads on the dash with broken necks. The two that was in back were injected down into the wave down below in the creek. And so my husband said, run down, call the squad.
Slow down. And you were led to that. You were guided to that.
Yes.
Again, you're the Earth
All
Angel.
I heard was the slightest scuff noise. You wouldn't think, it wasn't like a crash noise. It was nothing.
No, but that's the psychic healing. No, I understand this, but most people don't. You have given a gift, and they on the other side chose you, kind of like they chose me to do the work that I do, and you've been chosen to do the work you do to save lives. You've been helping people since you were a child, since you were 5 years old. You've been given, you were like indoctrinated, and you're here like a magnet to save those that are close to death, because you already had the near deaths. You understand it, but spiritually, whatever guide or guides you have, and angels, kind of like a little rope, they're like a leash, they're pulling you and they're leading you. And whether you hear a little noise, I hear things that other people can't hear. Most of the spiritual psychic people are on a higher level of frequency to hear things. And I'll say in a restaurant, do you hear that? People go, I don't know what. And then I'll point it out, then they hear it. You're the same way. You have an acute audibility for being clairaudient and helping people. It's like your little guiding light to say, go help John, go help Susie, go help Billy. And they take you to rescue these people, besides the fact that you gave all these children a home and nurtured them. I'm going to go back to that for a moment. The foster kids, are you still in touch with most of them?
No, I'm not. Okay. Foster kids, they go back to their biological. And we adopted older kids.
Right.
Who also went back to their biological. We keep in contact, but it's not like, not like my kids.
I got it. Let's go back to the men that you rescued from the creek and in the car accident. What happened with that incident?
The little boy that was in the creek, in the ditch, he was fine. And the Easter basket grass boy, he was fine. And the car wreck guys,
in the car, the two guys in the car, the guys
the two in the car were in the car with the laying their heads on the dash. They were life flighted. A friend of mine was on the squad, and she said that they had to revive them several times in flight, but they were okay. And she told me they was going to come to my house and thank me, but I never saw anybody. They ended up being okay. And the two that flew out of the car, was down at the bottom of the ditch. They had some head trauma, like concussion. They're acting out and carrying on with my husband down there, like out of their mind, but they were okay. It was just like a concussion thing. But yeah,
All
everybody
right,
ended up being okay.
stop a second, Peggy. I know you can't see me. Next show, you'll be able to watch, and then you can see how I jump around with questions. So back up a second. You're doing all this work, or you're being led, or you're rescuing, or you show up at the, like Superman at the witching hour. You're there to help. You're there to rescue. You're there to save someone's life. How does that make you, Peggy, feel when you do
Scared.
this? Scared?
I'm afraid. I'm in fear when it happens because I don't know why this is happening.
To you or them or both?
I doubt myself.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Yeah, I was going to say, to you, it's scary. To them, it's scary. To you, or to both. And it's both ways. It's scary because you're being led into the unknown, but you're being led to save. And then all of a sudden you're the rescuer, like the lifeboat. And then afterwards, you're like, what was that? Look at what you've been led to do. This is not you. This is the universe. This is spirituality. This is earth angel stuff. They're working on you from the other side, and you're the little conduit to go fix it. You were chosen.
Well, I ended up working for CPS. I was like 28, 29. And my first month there, I was still in training. And we walked in a house and I seen this baby, his newborn. And I said, that baby's about dead. And the investigator that's training me is like, what? That baby's fine. The mom looks at me like I'm weird. I said, no, I'm telling you, this baby's about dead. That baby's fine. He laughed at me. He's like, you feel that strongly, go talk to supervisor. So I did. I rushed back 5 minutes to the office and I told her. And so she had the other worker go check. So she's fine. A couple of days later, that baby was in the hospital, failure to thrive, severely dehydrated, and all kinds of problems.
Yeah, and then they started.
A few months later,
right. Yeah, and they thought you were right, not crazy. Go on.
Yeah, and it was one thing after another. The whole 7 years I worked there, I ended up doing 75% of all the cases because people were calling me. They didn't want anybody else to handle the case
because they knew you'd find.
And I could not let go of a case until I knew the kid was safe. And I got a reputation, but it made everybody else jealous and mad at me. I had death threats from the sheriff's office. And I mean, it was crazy. And so, so there was that. And the last thing that happened, and it was a couple years ago, we're coming towards our house in Tuppers Plains, and I seen a sign that said road closed due to accident. Immediately, I knew what happened. My husband got out of the car and was talking to the cops to see, can we go on down our road to go home? And I couldn't wait for him to get back in the car. As soon as he opened the door, I said, was it a motorcycle accident? He's like, yeah. And I said, let me tell you, they think it's just one man, but it's not. There was a woman on there and nobody knows it. She got thrown and they're not looking for her. And I was just carrying on. He said, well, we're not allowed to go down there. We can go this road to go home. I said, tell you, I got to go down there. And so I called my friend and I said, is that accident right in front of your house? Because I just knew where it was. It was near her house. She said, yeah, it's blocked off. Nobody can get down. I'm like, I've got to go down there. I'm telling you, there's a woman on the back of that motorcycle and she was thrown and they don't even know that she was with him and da-da-da-da. And so what am I going to do? I'm not allowed down there. Well, hindsight, I know what I could have done. I could have went down there anyway and not said a word, just went where I felt she was at. That's all I had to have done. But I was afraid I was going down there and make a big scene and people thinking I'm claiming to be psychic. I didn't have to do that. I could have very quietly just walked down there, hindsight. But so I didn't go down, and I kept watching the news because I just knew there's a woman. And sure enough, by the next morning early, it said that night a guy called in. He says, I think my mom was on the motorcycle with that guy. And the cops went looking, and they found her dead over on the hillside. And so it's horribly scary to get these kind of feelings, and that when you don't follow up, how horrible you feel.
Yes. It's horrible because you're right, but you second guess yourself, and that's the human part of you versus the psychic spiritual part of you. And that's where it's difficult to live a physical world, an existence versus the spiritual. And I've talked about it even on your show, learning how to integrate the two worlds. And it's hard. And most people think you're wacko, which is why you get the death threats or the phone calls or the naysayers online bashing or whatever. It's very normal because the average human does not see, feel, or hear that. I understand. Your people that you interview all the time understand. You understand. We're a whole different entity or level or group of people, Peggy. We're towards the end of the show. Let's have the last 5 minutes. How do you want to wrap this up as far as helping others understand your gift And do you have a private practice, or do you just do the interviews on your channel? What are you doing now with all of these 50 years, 45 years of experience?
Well, I don't claim to be a psychic. I don't claim to be anything. I've had a lot of experiences, but I don't create it. It comes to
No,
me.
you don't. No, you do not. No, you certainly do not create it, girl. I understand that because I walk into stuff people don't believe, like that you did what, you saw what, you heard what. No, we don't create. They, the creator, are the other side of that fourth dimension that we don't see. They are guiding us like we're on their little leash or their little rein, like we're the little horse, we're the little doers, we're the little light workers, and they take us to the event, or they'll send us certain people. But the people that you're reaching on your NDE TV is tremendous. The experiences you've had, I believe, is going into a book over the next couple of years. There's going to be a phenomenal book coming out with you, and you're going to continue to reach more people. You're not done. You may be shifting, and you may be ascending. Like a lot of us, we're going through a huge transformation right now, and we're being pushed like into this new abyss. Especially with the when we had the eclipse or we're in the retrograde, it's just been weird energy. But on the other side of it, next week, I can start to feel it now, and you can probably feel it. We're coming at the tail end of this last mucky couple of weeks, and now the clarity's coming in and the confusion's going away, but we're stronger again. And you're on that path as well. And we'll get you back so we can see you next month. I'll bring you back where I'll teach you how to fix the technical glitches, okay, so we can see you. But you're not done. You have more to do, more to rescue, more to convey, and more to love. And you're getting it all back from what you didn't have growing up. Okay. I didn't have kids, and I was sick, and I was forced into the spiritual world after my 3 NDEs and all the surgeries, and the people became like my family. People would call me their spiritual mom, and I started to resent it for many years, and then I started accepting it. And it's the same with you. You took your weird experiences and turned it into something positive. And the fact that you've touched so many thousands of lives, Peggy, and given them hope or light or love or saved them, that's huge. The beautiful part about you is you're so humble, you don't see it. You don't like, yeah, well, I just did that. Oh well, it's no big deal. You may have panicked, you may have had the urge, but in the end, it's like you're so humble because you know you're working with God, right?
Yeah, I'm a Christian, so I don't know. Some of the people have these abilities or skills or whatever they are.
I'm Jewish. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It's still God. It's all one God. You can believe how you get there, but I don't go with religion. I just go with God because God's God. Good orderly direction. Someone's out there. I don't care how you get there. There's 3,200 religions, but you pick one. But the beauty is
why I denied this stuff for so long, because it doesn't fit in the Christian.
Correct. Correct. And when people call me out,
my grandma said this stuff was witchcraft.
Yeah, but it's not, because you're not harming, you're helping. Witchcraft is destroying, is being destructive, it's being pained, it's causing people to fail or to manipulate negatively. People used to call me, oh, I don't know if I can talk to you. My pastor said I can't talk to psychics. I said, well, if God didn't want me to have the gift, why'd he give it to me? Turn it around. It's all in your favor. Okay, it's all God. So we're at the tail end. Why don't you give me again your TV channel on YouTube and spell your name so people can find you?
Okay. NDE TV, Pegi, Pegi Robinson.
And we're going to have you back, Peggy Robinson. Stay back. Don't hang up as we close the show, and I'll talk to you momentarily. I want to thank you for joining the Psychic Solutions podcast today. I love hearing NDE stories because I am one of thousands. And thanks to program. Yeah, I've been here for 30 years, but I've been doing a lot. Just go to my channel, is at Psychic Solutions, Linda Salvin, Metaphysician. on YouTube. You can also tune in anytime, 24 hours a day at drlindaradio.com. I have all my old shows from 20 years ago to shows from last week replaying. There's music that I've written on that and other interviews. I will have Peggy back once we get through the retrograde and fix all the techie stuff. Rebel has been a great engineer one more time. And I am Dr. Linda Salvin, lindasalvin.com. I'm a metaphysician with a background in epidemiology, and I am here every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tuesday and Thursday is the Psychic Metaphysics. Wednesday is on recovery with Candy Finnegan, called Recovery Wednesday. Google us, everybody, or just go to my YouTube channel, click the little bell, become a subscriber. And if you have a story that you want to share, email me at lindasalvin.com, and I'll bring you on and you can share your story. Thanks for all the comments I saw. I'm not able to respond while I'm talking, everybody, but I know that you're there. I appreciate it. Peggy and I say thank you, and we'll talk real soon. Good night. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions Podcast. You can reach Dr. Linda at 888-509-1077 or at lindasalvin.com. Need a breakthrough of your own? Ready for answers or insights nobody else has? Reserve your own one-on-one in-person chat. Dr. Linda isn't just for other people. Dr. Linda gets results for you. And it's easy. Contact details are on screen now. Just click on lindasalvin.com or call toll-free 888-509-1077. That's lindasalvin.com or toll-free at 888-509-1077.